how did you become unplugged and develop this whole new way of thought?
For most guys, it's usually something that comes to us that's chaotic that
Yeah,
we struggle with. So,
right.
divorce, heartbreak, she cheated on us, something like that. It doesn't always have to be a relationship. For some guys, it might be a business partnership that goes south and they have to, like, oh, I have to recalibrate myself. Business partnerships aren't what I thought they would be, sort of thing. But that's really what it
Hmm.
just boils down to is you hold a image out there that you think is real, maybe a covert contract that you create in your mind between you and that story. And that story breaks down and it's not true, and you kind of have to unplug from that lie. So that's where that term comes from. Sure, the Matrix, the red pilling and all that sort of
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
But for most guys, it's some form of chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that goes for most people in general. Usually, like I usually call it like waking up. It usually takes something,
Hmm.
painful or something chaotic, something catastrophic in your life to kind of wake you up and like, oh, wait, I've been sold these lies or told these stories or believed these Disney fairy tales, and this is not real life.
Yeah.
What did you do? Like, so when you started this process of waking up or unplugging, how did you start acquiring your new sets of beliefs or what you found to be true?
Yeah. Just updating your beliefs. Like I said earlier, reading books, Evo Psych studies,
Hmm.
conversations, online videos, dating relationships, what doesn't work. One of the big problems, I think this is true for women, they just hear a different set of lies than men hear, but like
Sure.
everything we've been told about relationships really isn't true. Most of it's lies, and it doesn't serve either party.
Can you give kind of some examples of that? What you mean by that?
Um, well, one of the things that they'll tell men is women are sugar and spice and all things nice. And they are when things are great, but I think you have to like treat all women like a loaded gun. You can get hurt if you mishandle them, right? And I think
Hmm.
for women, like one of the lies that they're told is, chase excellence, climb the corporate ladder, get a whole bunch of degrees, put off family. Don't worry about it. Have it later in your life. You got loads of time.
Hmm.
So it's a different set of stories that we hear, and there's all these sequences of different stories that are subsequent to those. I mean, one of the things you see a lot of the time in the ladies night podcast, and I think you saw as well too when we were chatting when I was on that time, is you get a lot of gals that are convinced of certain things or beliefs that they hold very strong and dear, that when
Hmm.
you start to like have conversations about them, they're all disproved, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of them certainly can be disproved. I think, you know, there's always room for disagreement. Like, in life, no one's ever going to agree 100% just by explaining your side. But I do think that I clinch onto beliefs that are more comfortable or self-serving. And that just might be human tendency in general, but that's it can be hard to try to allow yourself to be open enough to break down some things that might kind of destroy your reality. So for
Hmm.
example, what you were saying, I'm 31, so I was raised like peak feminism. It was still cool. People weren't really abandoning it the way that they are today. So, it was all we were taught, go to school, get a degree, to your point, get a higher level degree, get a job, work up the corporate ladder, be a CEO, start a business. It wasn't like, when I was graduating high school, nobody said like they were going to start a Like when they ask you, well, what are you going to do after high school? Nobody wanted to say like be a wife. It
Yeah.
was like go to school or I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a doctor. And including myself, I would have thought you're going to be like, that's it. You're just going to be a wife, be a mom. That
Hmm.
was not cool. And things that were glorified and to an extent still are not truly feminine or shouldn't be. So like, for example, I remember this was also like the uprising of trash reality TV. So there was a show called Girls Next Door. I don't know if you remember that on E! Channel. That was like the life of Hugh Hefner and his girlfriends that lived in his house, the Playboy Mansion. And
Never saw
I,
it. No.
yeah, you're not missing out on anything.
Okay.
But I mean, I thought that was cool. I thought
Mm-hmm.
these girls that were like Hugh's quote unquote girlfriends were like I wanted to kind of like that would be cool to be them one day. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean that was just like the level of just ridiculousness that we were being sold. And it wasn't until like my mid to late 20s that some of these things started to break down. And actually, a guy that I dated when I was about 26 was a someone that even by your standard would be considered like a successful masculine man, entrepreneur. He's a doctor. And my first date with him, I was like, whoa, what am I doing? From little things like opening the door for us to into the restaurant, or like walking up
Hmm.
to the host stand first, or
Hmm.
speaking first to the waiter, and then watching his reaction. I was like, holy, like I've been doing this all wrong.
Felt good, right?
Um, did not feel good at all.
Oh, it didn't feel good.
It
Okay.
felt good to realize, but it didn't feel
Mm.
good to be, I guess, embarrassed in that way. Not that he was embarrassing me, I was embarrassing myself. And
Okay.
then to just kind of be
Because he was
like,
leading?
it was embarrassing when I realized what I was doing and to see the reaction on his face that,
Oh, like,
oh,
so what were you doing? Were you trying to compete or?
no, it was just habit or reactionary. I also had come out of a
Oh, I
relationship with
see.
someone who was not that was the total opposite. I mean, I was the leader. I was the total driver of that relationship prior to this guy. And so I think I
Did
was
that
used to
prior one
that.
feel good?
No, no,
Right.
I ended
Okay.
up ending it just because I
Yeah.
was like, I couldn't do it anymore. I was exhausted. I mean, we're not built as women to do all that. I was like, I'm your trainer, I'm your
Mm.
mom, I'm your, your cook, I'm your chef, I have
I
to
mean, there's
teach you how
nothing
to
more
iron.
unattractive to women than being an adult man's mom, right?
Absolutely. It's, he was very mama's boy too, that guy. And so it was like
Mhm.
he was just transferring everything his mom was still doing for him or lack thereof onto me. And it was like, this is not a relationship. Like you
Here's
decide
what's
something.
interesting about what you just said there. So you're talking about this Hugh Hefner show where he had all these girlfriends, and you thought to yourself, "Oh, that would be cool. Maybe I could do that one day," sort of thing. And
Hmm.
that's a closer, more accurate representation of relationships throughout history than what we're seeing in the last 100 years, right? Where men and women are going out, achieving things, climbing the corporate ladder, getting their degrees, buying their houses, their Teslas, and all that sort of stuff. Whereas, like if you ask women, a lot of the times, we've seen this out there, and we've started to talk to women on our podcast here, where you say, would you rather be the king's mistress or married to the peasant? And most women will want to be the king's mistress, simply because women are actually inherently okay with sharing a high value, successful, top shelf, like prominent sort of guy. Ishmael the Bloodthirsty was the most prominent runner of a harem, if you can put it that way, which has always been natural throughout history. Like most successful men had more than one guy in his, or sorry, most successful men had more than one gal in his life. I think he had like 1,000 concubines, over 1,200 kids, or something like that. But this notion of women putting off being wives and mothers and raising children and building a household is now, it's bad. Like you shouldn't be doing that, right? Like all the TV
Right.
shows, and then you go to other channels, you click through, and it's like, oh, the Desperate Housewives of whatever county or something like that. And these are, well-to-do women that are with men. They don't have to work. Their whole life is a TV show, right? Or they're
Hmm.
TikTok wives, or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's, I'm not saying that, there's enough room for this to happen with everybody, but the notion of polygyny is pretty natural throughout history. Like if you look at the records, it, exists all throughout history.
Hmm.
All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that clip. If you want to check out the full length podcast episode, you can find that right over here. Also, make sure you visit my website over here, where you'll find my supplements, the opportunity to book me privately one on one for coaching, and most importantly, my new School of Unplugging, which you'll find on the courses tab. Newer to the channel, hit subscribe.